Welcome to the FF Forge. My name is Steve, and today we will start out the day, at least, just covering some of the waiver wire options because I need to get this out. I was originally going to put this out behind at the end of a Week 1 recap video that I am in the middle of editing. The Monday night game is not in that video. That will be in this video, as well as somehow I just passed over a game, so I will also quick cover that game in this video. But let's start out with the waiver wire. This video is just going to be quick. I need to get my waiver wires out there into the world so that way you can act upon them before it is too late. Starting off with the quarterbacks, really the only one that I am interested in here is going to be Jameis Winston. Carson Wentz is going to probably be boom or bust. Maybe things are working in favor for more boom than bust this season for him, though, and a great week 1 for him for fantasy football. As far as Matt Ryan goes, didn't look too pretty out there in the past game. I think that will not be a season-long issue, and he is definitely someone who I think you should be able to end up trusting. That run game should be able to keep pressure off him, but not really a high upside option in my opinion. Moving on to the running backs, I have Khalil Herbert at the top of the list. Originally, this would have been Jaylen Warren. However, it does not appear like there are, it appears Najee Harris will be coming back this week. So, not as concerned about that. So, I'll just cover these 4 guys are really my sit on my bench, or in the case of Brian Robinson, put him in an IR spot if you have that ability, and hope for some future productivity for them. And in the case of these guys, especially, I do believe that they would have a lot of workload, essentially taking over the workload of the current starters if they were thrust into that position. So they are my top names for that kind of work. And then moving backwards here, just Amir Abdullah. Brandon Bolden had a hamstring injury during the game this last weekend. Don't know how major that is or not. If it is something to be concerned about, Amir Abdullah would be the guy to cover, I think at least take over what Brandon Bolden's role was in that offense. Not a name I'm necessarily targeting, but in some leagues you may need deeper names. And Kenneth Gainwell is, I think, who we thought he was coming into the season, so he's going to get some work. I guess that got verified. That should be a good offense. There should be some touchdown opportunities for him throughout the season, so not a bad backup to have in for certain types of leagues and teams. Then moving on to the number 2 waiver wire option, I don't have a whole lot of spread between these guys. So I put Jamal Williams. I do think that that's probably a better team than Rex Burkhead's team, Houston compared to Detroit. I'm going out on a limb there, I guess, maybe. But I think that Jamal Williams has a more secured role for the season-long prospects. He would definitely take over the majority of the rushing attempts, kind of like these 4 guys down here, if there were to be an injury to the starter there. Jamal Williams, he should be on rosters already, but apparently he's not on enough yet. So there is a name to keep in mind, but don't expect every week to look like this either. There will be more details in the recap video too for some of these guys. As far as Rex Burkhead, Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason, kind of a hodgepodge here. Rex Burkhead is probably good for the short term to have, but maybe not a whole lot of a ceiling being on that offense in Houston, and you can expect that role to diminish to some extent, but I do believe it will always be there, so I think he does have some season-long value, just not a ceiling. And then Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason. Jeff Wilson did have the starting role after Elijah Mitchell went down this week. There is some talk about will he actually have that role, and I think that is legitimately good questions. So I don't know who it is. I don't know that I really want to mess with that San Francisco backfield. And if you are spending fab, I don't know how much is going to end up getting spent on these guys, but I wouldn't go out there and break your budget for these guys. It sucks because San Francisco really does have great running backs usually. It's just a matter of who the heck is it and how long will they be healthy. But Deebo Samuel is going to be taking some of that work anyways, and this offense may struggle to some extent to be consistently having longer drives. So I'm not super excited to be getting either one of those two. Moving on to the wide receivers, Joshua Palmer is my number one, especially for the short term. Maybe not my number one season long, would be more of these 2A and 2B guys down here. But Joshua Palmer in the short term should get some work for a minimum of a week and technically up to like 3 months. But I would say a week to a month at the longer end here. So that would good offense to be on. He's my top target for the wide receivers, and he is probably the best target for the short term that is available out here. Jarvis Landry, Jahan Dotson. I couldn't really choose between the two because I don't think Jarvis Landry is going to do this every week, but I did draft him because I do think that he has a role in an offense that should be pretty solid, and maybe this week is just a little tasting of what's to come. And then Jahan Dotson, also not going to have 2 touchdowns every week. Once again, more talk in the recap section, but those 3 guys are definitely targets that would be worth it. As far as Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis goes, Corey Davis is going to be your PPR guy, and Garrett Wilson is going to be your sit on your bench and wait for Zach Wilson to come back guy. Then DJ Shark, I just don't know that, he'll have some blow-up games, probably. He's a short-term fix-it in deeper leagues, I would say. He should not give you goose eggs, so that's always a good thing. Then Sterling Shepard is probably the guy to own in the New York Giants offense. I don't really want any of that offense outside of Saquon Barkley, though. Rondale Moore, I don't know that he's going to be coming back this week. I believe we'll get a little bit more of a clear answer on that come Wednesday, but I believe he is a missing piece in that offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's quite valuable, but you're taking on some risk. He may be a nobody, so he's not an instant, hey, go get this guy. As far as Michael Gallup goes, if you have him and you need space on your roster, don't be afraid to drop him. You're probably excited to go ahead and drop him, but I also wouldn't say just go out and throw him away. In part, the reasoning behind that being that they may be trading for Jimmy G, and that wouldn't be a bad thing in the meantime. For fantasy purposes, Cooper Rush did do well against a pretty bad defense last season, passing defense. So, there's still a hope even with Cooper Rush there. I wouldn't throw Michael Gallup into the garbage bin, but definitely a risky asset to hold on to whose upside isn't looking as bright as it was previous to this weekend's set of games. Curtis Samuel came out, had himself a game. He's a full PPR guy. I really don't want him outside of probably full PPR because I don't think he gets enough. His ADOT's basically not high enough to really be a guy that you want to trust. I'd rather take some risk on higher upside guys who are boom or bust than a Curtis Samuel if I'm needing to dig that deep at the wide receiver position. Robbie Anderson, Nico Collins, Romeo Doubs, Devin Duvernay, those are kind of the types of names that I would rather go over Curtis Samuel. Now, Robbie Anderson, I may have him a little bit low on this list. I view him a little bit more like a Mike Williams Jr. than I do what he put up this week. So I'm just really not expecting that to be a weekly thing, but it is possible. Maybe DJ Moore gets all of the attention and Robbie Anderson and Baker Mayfield have a connection. He is an upside guy to take a chance on for sure. I would rather take a chance on him than these guys. Devin Duvernay, mostly just being because of the limited amount of targets that he will end up seeing no matter what. But there will be some great games, just like this week wasn't bad for him. As far as tight ends go, Gerald Everett's probably the only one I'm legitimately going to switch out one of the many borderline type tight ends to actually get. Otherwise, just play the odds, keep the tight end that you have, and maybe next week will be the week that they get a touchdown, or the week after that. You go 3 weeks without anything, okay, go right ahead and switch it out for something else, unless somebody huge comes along, but that's not really going to happen at tight end. Tyler Conklin, Hayden Hurst, Albert O are all part of that field of guys who are going to have good weeks, and they're going to have not great weeks, Hayden Hurst, maybe his value is a little bit higher right now if T. Higgins is out this week. I'm not running to go and get any of these guys, but, they're the guys to think about. And O.J. Howard, I'm definitely not running to grab. If his snap share was really high, then we could put him into this conversation. I'm pretty sure he's third on the depth chart there for tight end. Maybe he's second. So, that is the waiver wires. Let's move ahead to the Browns versus the Panthers, the game that I just somehow skipped over in my recap video when I recorded that, which not so bad because that's really long. Nick Chubb had 22 rushes for 141 yards, 1 catch, 2 receiving yards. Hey, he's good. He's Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt's doing what he always does to Nick Chubb and eliminating him from being that number one type running back. So Kareem Hunt had 11 rushes, 46 yards, 1 touchdown, and then 4 catches. And I think that touchdown was on a long run, so he might not have been very efficient on the ground outside of a few of his rushes. Don't quote me on that, though. And then 4 receptions to 24 yards and a touchdown through the air. Great week for Kareem Hunt. That's a good sign from this offense. It was a weird game. I'm not drawing too many conclusions from week 1 for any teams, and I still have the same concerns that I did coming into the week for the Browns and for the Panthers for that matter. Moving on to the passing game there for the Browns. DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, maybe he is that tight end-ish target for, what's his name? For the quarterback there, Jacoby Brissett. He had 11 targets, 6 receptions, 60 yards. Not expecting this every week. He did not make it on my waiver wire list. I should have probably thrown him on there, though. He is a guy to, at the very least, he should be on the watch list. So that's where he is for me right now. He repeats this, he'll jump up on my target list, but I do expect Amari Cooper will not have this bad of a day every week. But these were the concerns for Amari Cooper. This is why he wasn't high on draft charts. He had 6 targets, 3 receptions, 17 yards. He may get blanket coverage, and Jacoby can't out-throw blanketed coverage. So it's going to be this type of season for Amari where there should be some blow-up games and there should be some absolute duds. Unfortunately, that's been confirmed already in the season for any Amari Cooper owners, but there will be brighter days ahead. I just don't know if you'll have him starting on those brighter days. Then David, if you can, flip Amari Cooper with something else for something. David Njoku, 1 target, 1 reception, 7 yards. And I'm going to go back to Amari Cooper. I know that's like selling low, but it depends what you get, as always. And then David Njoku, that was not a good start for him. He's another guy who's one of those tight ends, but we've seen enough from Brissett to know that he does like his tight ends. So unless DPJ is really his replacement as a tight end, I'm not too concerned about Njoku yet. He should have some days. He should be a pretty typical tight end. Then to Baker Mayfield, not a great showing. 16 of 27 for 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. There are some clear growing pains there with that Panthers offense. They needed to rely on this Christian McCaffrey guy, and boy, it really got saved by a touchdown and a 25-yard run on a Baker Mayfield fumble or bad snap type play. I haven't seen it, but I know it was pretty crazy and he made something out of nothing. But that's why he needs to get more touches than he got today. 14 touches for Christian McCaffrey's not enough, and I'm sure the team knows that. So look for brighter days ahead, and let's all be thankful that we got our touchdown there. Robbie Anderson, I added him to that list. So Robbie Anderson, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 102 yards, 1 touchdown. He's a boom or bust kind of guy, but he's starting out on a boom, and he's definitely got to keep an eye on. DJ Moore, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 43 yards. I think brighter days will be ahead. I think just in general, this offense should be better. I don't see any reason why not. So I'm tossing this week out for my analysis of the Panthers and hoping for better times. Moving on to the Denver versus Seahawks Monday night game. Everything is the opposite of what I expected in this game. That's the simple way to put it. So, Gordon had more rushes, 12-7, than Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams had more targets, 12-2, than Melvin Gordon. What's going on with... What a weird coaching game. Growing pains. Talk about growing pains. Denver, I thought they were going to come out here and just smash in this game. It's not the end of the world for Denver. It was week 1. That's all I do know. So as far as Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton go, this game could have ended up looking in the opposite fashion for fantasy football purposes. Jerry Jeudy had the day. He got the touchdown. He got more receiving yards, broke a big play, really, really good play. Both of them look like they should have some fantasy relevance, but until this offense gets things going and really creates some sort of identity of what they want to do, that may be in flux on a weekly basis of essentially probably who it is, but it was encouraging, at least with 7 targets each. That's something to work off of. Albert O received 6 targets. I'm not super surprised about this. He made it to my waiver wire list. He was one of my sleepers preseason, but he is also another tight end at this point. But there were quite a few targets. There's Andrew Beck, I believe it is, another tight end there who received some targets. It looks like that ball is going to be spread around a fair bit to those tight ends, running backs, which makes sense. That's part of the system. But they might be taking it a little too literally. That offense needs a little study time. Figure things out. Rashad Penny had the backfield. There are no concerns about whose backfield that is for now. We'll see when Kenneth Walker comes back and what that does to things. But for now, Rashad Penny owners, he looked good. He looked actually really, really good. The box score doesn't do him justice, and the box score wasn't that bad as in terms of non-fantasy purposes. And he got 3 targets, so that's also promising. It was not a bad game for Rashad Penny, but he didn't end up doing a whole lot for you in fantasy football this week. He didn't kill you either. Will Dissly and Noah Fant. I'm not running out to get Will Dissly. His big play on this for the touchdown was sort of a scramble and find the wide open guy, and honestly, there might be a fair amount of that with how this offense goes with Geno Smith. And Will Dissly might be the guy who benefits from that more than Noah Fant, because Noah Fant's not going to be really the block 'em, release, and just kind of be behind the defense on a scrambled play. Noah Fant's going to just, run. And I don't know how good he is at getting open once he's downfield or not. But either way, not over panicking about Noah Fant, but you probably weren't expecting him to be anything more than just a guy, right? So he is just another guy. I'm not high up on him. And Will Dissly, I'm not going to put him on my watch list quite yet, but it was interesting, and what I said may turn into Will Dissly being some sort of low-key fantasy surprise. And then Lockett and Metcalf, 11 targets total for those receivers. I think these are catches, I believe. So, Metcalf was 7 for 7, and Lockett might have been 4 for 5. Either way, I think this is kind of what we expected, unfortunately, for the wide receivers in this offense. Broncos are a good defense. This was it was just kind of a grinded out game. And so in games where if this Seahawks offense is legit, then that spells trouble for Lockett and Metcalf, because then they're just not going to be needed downfield, and that's already going to be an issue, and they're not going to get enough targets. So not an exciting week for Lockett and Metcalf, but we were geared up for that possibility anyways with these two. Yeah, yuck. So that is it. I'm going to go back to editing my recap video as soon as I can quick edit this and get it out to you. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, do the things that you do for YouTube. I appreciate you. Take care. I'll see you soon.